Hello again, this is question 31 from the 2013 exam, and let's make a start. Here's a graph, it's a cosine graph, and from it we have to find these values for A, B, C and D to fit this equation. Okay, I think I will start with the period of this curve. If I were to start at the point pi on 6, 7, the period would be up until this point here, pi on 6, but I don't have this value on the x-axis, so I can't see straight away what the period is. I do, however, know this point over here, and I'll use the symmetry properties of the cosine curve to find out the period. I know that if I put the other, there we go, there's the bottom in. Along the x-axis, the gap from the peak to the trough is the same as the trough to the peak, which is the same as the peak to the trough, all those three spacings. So if I just mark those in on the x-axis, that is the same as that, which is the same as that. In other words, there's three lots of them along this x-axis from pi on 6 to 7 pi on 6. So now just a quick calculation over here. 7 pi on 6, take away pi on 6 is 6 pi on 6, which is pi. So it's pi all the way, and I divide it into 3 bits, so each one of those is pi on 3. And to make the whole period, I need two of them. I need to go from this point to this point to find the period, that is when it starts repeating. So I'll need two of my 3 parts. Each part is pi on 3. I need two of them. The period therefore is 2 pi on 3. And I just did that using symmetry of the cosine curve. Now I want to find out, using that, what that letter B is. You might be used to thinking of that as being the n, where n is the number next to the variable in the angle. You would normally say that's the period is 2 pi on n. Now in this case, this equation, we use letter B, so instead of n I'll just write, let's just get rid of that, I'll write B, and so therefore 2 pi on 3 is 2 pi on B, and B then must be equal 3. Okay, we've got the first thing, we've got the B. Now I've got A, C and D to go. Let's look at the peak, the maximum. We're at 7, so that's 7, and the minimum over here is at -3, so we go down to -3. The gap between top and bottom is 7 plus 3, which is 10, and so halfway will be 5. The amplitude is 5, and I can put the halfway line in. Now the amplitude is 5, so that means this point here will be 2, because 2 plus 5 will give you 7, and 2 minus 5 will give you the -3. The halfway line is at 2. In the y equals cos x curve, the halfway line is at 0, so this is telling me that the d must be equal to 2, because we've had a translation 2 up. I also know that the amplitude is 5, A equals 5. There might be a plus or a minus for that if there's a reflection or not. I don't think there is a reflection in this situation, because I've been told in here that x minus c, so it's wanting a translation to the right of value of c, and I can see that a cosine curve, its peak starts off on the y-axis and it's moved across there, and that's a movement of pi on 6 to the right. So there's no reflection. A does equal 5 plus 5. I've got C equal to pi on 6 because I've got a translation pi on 6 to the right. And I found that by considering the peak, which on a cosine curve starts there. For cosines, this is the point at which you consider going right or left to find the sideways translation. In this case, it's gone pi on 6 to the right, so C is pi on 6, and I've got my D, and I think I've got everything now. Okay, let's make it a little bit easier to read for anyone who's looking at this. The only actual calculations I've had to do have been this stuff about the period and then finding B. Anyway, just list my solutions. A equals 5, B equals 3, C equals pi on 6, and D equals 2. And that is it, finished. With all of these ones, I find it's the symmetry of the situation. It's the halfway between the top and bottom. It's dividing things up into equal amounts. It's the symmetry that what I use to solve them.